Hey everyone, game composer Caleb here with the Human Music Society. In the last video we talked about beauty and talked about just sort of trying to put together a framework of what exactly beauty is and how we interact with beauty as humans. But there was a part of beauty, I was watching the video afterwards, and I realized that there's a part of beauty which I missed in that video, and so I wanted to address it here briefly before getting on to the second part of this video. And what I missed is this, that beauty is complex. Now, that may seem obvious, and what I mean by that is that beauty can be found in multiple aspects of life. For example, beauty can be found in the good. The better something is, often the more beautiful we find it. But beauty can also be found in things like redemption, where the very bad becomes good, or things like the worthwhile struggle, which is in many ways the process of becoming better or the process of becoming good. And those are things which we as humans find beautiful, which we find valuable. All that to say that beauty is not just one thing. It can be found in multiple aspects of life. It is truly multidimensional. And I would argue that it is even infinite to a certain degree. Like, there's not really a cap to how beautiful something can be. The threshold of how beautiful something can be is endless. And so it also has this weird relationship with the idea of infinity as well, which in my mind sort of makes sense if from a theistic, from a Christian perspective, if God is the most beautiful thing and God is also an infinite being, then it makes sense that those two would tie together in that way. But that brings us to an interesting point, which is, what is the best way to acknowledge beauty? I would argue that the best way to acknowledge beauty is through more beauty, that the best way to praise beauty is by creating a beautiful thing in reflection of the original beauty. Now, I suppose that you could tell something that it's beautiful, or you could tell someone that they are beautiful, and you could compliment the beauty in that way. I mean, some people do believe that if you talk positive things to a plant, for example, that the plant will thrive better because of that positivity because of the acknowledgement of the plant's inherent beauty. And that's certainly true for humans too, where humans certainly get value from knowing that other humans perceive them as beautiful. I'd also argue that the acknowledgement and that the praise of beauty through compliments is like the very first level of what it means to worship, or what it means to acknowledge that something is beautiful. However, I think it means so much more if, instead of telling someone that they're beautiful, for example, you created a painting of them which captures not only the outward appearance of beauty, but also somehow captures that inward beauty, which a lot of people have, and often the inward beauty is even more profound than the outward beauty, than the beauty in their appearance. And that's what creativity has the ability to do. That's how creativity can praise beauty, and is why I believe that the ultimate form of praise for beauty is by creating more beauty in the reflection of the original. Now that we've explored that aspect of beauty a little bit more, let's turn and look more deeply into the relationship between beauty and the human creative spirit. The good news is that the relationship isn't complex. Creativity might be complex, beauty might be complex, but the relationship is very simple. And that is this: creativity creates beautiful things. But the meaning of that is where I think some of the complexity comes back and where it's worth exploring a little bit more, because I would actually argue that working with beauty, especially in a creative endeavor, is primarily and essentially an ethical behavior. The reason for that has to do with what I was exploring and explaining in the last video, which is beauty either points to life or it points to death. It points to the good, to the truth, or it deceives and degenerates into the bad. If you're religious, then it either points to God or it separates from God. And that is the power of beauty, and that's why when creating something beautiful, that is primarily an ethical behavior, because you are essentially either working towards the good or working towards the bad. And what that means is that creativity has the power through beauty, through creating beauty, to point to the good, to point to the truth, to point to a higher level of existence, and ultimately to point to the ultimate truth. I don't think that beauty is often perceived that way in our modern Western context. In our modern Western context, like most things, creativity is seen through a very utilitarian lens. More often than not, creativity is a means to a commercially driven end. For example, in my own profession, creating a game soundtrack which reflects the game so that the game will do well commercially. That is one of my primary goals as a video game composer when I'm working on a game. Another example of this is creative problem solving in the context of a business. This is what people talk about a lot, is your ability to be creative in the way that you solve problems in a business so that the business can be more profitable as the end result of that. And perhaps the most obvious example in our capitalist environment is creatively creating products which solve problems. Now, is this a bad thing? No, I don't think so. In fact, I think there are many good things which go into that. However, I think it is easy for us to forget the higher calling of creativity as something which can point to the ultimate beauty, to the ultimate good, to truth, to life, etc. And there are really cool examples of pieces of art which hit both marks, meaning that they were commercially very successful, and they also pointed to the higher good, to the ultimate beauty through the art form. The primary example off the top of my head of that is The Lord of the Rings, both of the books and of the films. Both of those mediums were extremely successful financially, but then they also captured something in their creation which points to a higher beauty, to a higher calling, to a higher state of living, of existence. Other examples of that might be like the Narnia books and the Narnia films, or perhaps the Skyrim video game, which captures a lot of exquisite beauty in its visuals and in its music. And this brings us to the main point of the video, which is one definition of creativity is a testament to an action taken in acknowledgement of foundational beliefs. I'll say that one more time. A testament to an action taken in acknowledgement of foundational beliefs. What this means is you have the testament, that's the artwork, that tells the story of the action taken, which is the choice to create the artwork and the process of creating the artwork. In reflection of foundational beliefs, creativity allows us the opportunity to reflect on and to praise or to acknowledge the most deeply held beliefs that we hold. That can be for anything, but for the purpose of this video, it can be a primary reflection of what we find beautiful, of what the ultimate beauty is, and of how we can pursue that through our art. That's what creativity does. And oftentimes in our Western context, we miss that crucial piece. And so that leads us to an important question. Does beauty created by AI mean the same thing as beauty created by humans? Well, I would argue that it is a stand-in for the real thing. It's artificial. And the reason for that is because without the action of reverence towards the beautiful, beauty created by AI is missing a crucial component of what beauty is and of how we as humans interact with beauty. And this deeper part of the relationship between creativity and beauty is what we are in danger of losing if we continue to focus purely on beauty and on creativity as utilitarian, especially as AI becomes the most utilitarian source of beauty in our world. And this is yet another reason why it is so important for us to preserve the human creative spirit, so that we don't lose the ability to interact with beauty on a deeper level, on a level which points to the good, which points to God, which points to a higher level of existence. Because action is important, and the ultimate beauty in this world is worthy of us taking action to create beautiful things as a reflection of it.